Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I come to you with kind of fun, nice, interesting news. You see, a little while ago, I told you about Chandelure VMAX over in Japan. And essentially, and I'll try to explain this really clearly because it's quite subtle, but when they initially made Chandelure VMAX over in Japan, there was a bit of a problem. And the problem was that the artist who drew Chandelure got the model wrong. It was a little bit wrong. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. So, I think, weirdly, an easy way to see it is on the Chandelure sleeves, or indeed on the Chandelure V from Fusion Strike. Either of those works quite nicely. And you can see on these that if you look at Chandelure's eyes, you've got a horizontal line that goes from one eye to the other and then stops. That horizontal line does not carry on around the back of Chandelure's head. It doesn't go out the side of its eyes around the back. It's not a ring that goes all the way around Chandelure. It is a line that goes from one eye to the other, but it's not going all the way around. The problem was that if you look at the art of Chandelure VMAX, what you notice is on both the full art and the Rainbow Rare, the lines carry on from the eyes going around the back of the head. And over on the Japanese website, there was even an article about this where they pointed out and they drew little red circles showing where there are lines going around the back of Chandelure's head where there shouldn't be, because Chandelure should have a line going between the eyes, not round the back of the head. But it wasn't fixed. And then they printed the cards in English, and once again, for both the VMAX and for the Rainbow Rare, it wasn't fixed. And it's just sitting out there as an error in the artwork. And what's weird is that Japan went and put out over, the Pokémon company, they went and put out this article on the website apologizing for the error and explaining what had happened. And incidentally, I love that because somebody, I wasn't going to, probably ever, but somebody was going to notice. Well, they didn't put out an article saying that they've corrected it, but they totally have. So, Rumba J over on Twitter has gone and shared this image of the two of them side by side, and you will notice that whereas before you did have those erroneous lines going from the side of Chandelure's eyes around the back of its head, they're not there anymore. There is a line going between the two eyes and then it stops. They have actually reprinted this card with corrected artwork. And they've done it very carefully and very sneakily, and they've not told anybody about it. And then, of course, we get to this weird situation where which one of these is going to be the most valuable? Is it going to be the error card, or is it going to be the corrected card? And history tells us that the answer is probably the corrected card. Now, let's be clear, we don't know, because it all depends on the print run. The general rule is quite simple. Whichever card, whichever version, the error or the corrected, has fewer copies printed, that is going to be the rarer one by definition, and will therefore be the most valuable of the two. So we need to find out about print numbers, and that is just not something Pokemon are going to publish. But let's face it, that came out a while ago. Like, this was in Fusion Arts over in Japan. Fusion Arts is no longer the most recent set, because we saw the release of Starbirth a couple of weeks ago. So the chances are that this is just a little run, a much smaller run, a run which is just frankly not coming back anytime soon. Like, don't get me wrong, they might do more of them. When I say not coming back, I mean not coming back in earnest, not doing the big numbers, because we all know at this stage Pokemon are printing Starbirth. That's the big set. Starbirth is what is actually the focus right now, and as we sit here, we are 3 weeks and a day away from the release of Battle Region, and so that's clearly a priority as well. Reprinting Fusion Arts, I mean, clearly they're doing it. We've got proof they're doing more print runs, but the fact of the matter is, we shouldn't expect this by any stretch of the imagination to be comparable to the newer set, it's going to be a smaller run, which will make it more valuable. And we've seen this before, and we can actually, I mean, if you know these stories, you know this is going to be the one I pick. The very first ever Donphan came around in Neo Genesis, or over in Japan, it was the much snappier titled Gold, Silver, to a New World, which honestly I actually probably prefer the name of, even though it's totally unwieldy and I don't even care. My point is that first ever Donphan, the Neo Genesis Donphan, when it was printed in Japanese, they done a whoopsie. And the whoopsie that they done was they printed one of its attacks, Flail to be specific, with no attack damage. And then later on they did a corrected run where it shows 10 times like it should. But, and it very much seems like it's similar to what's happening with Chandelure here, this was something that happened quite late. This wasn't something that they did straight away. This was something that was corrected on a later print run. And for that reason, the corrected version with the 10 times is actually a lot rarer and therefore a lot more valuable than the error. So people like to be like, error cards, and thinking about how valuable and rare and all of that they are. But actually the reality of the situation is that in this run, this Donphan, it's actually the Donphan without the error, the corrected version, which ends up being more sought after. We could say the same thing with Sylveon EX, as an example. Over in Japan, when they printed Sylveon EX, the second attack Precious Ribbon, there was a white dot where another energy could have been printed. Shout out to Bulbapedia for helping me out with some of this information. Also the lovely Primal Lugia, who is awesome, as we all know. So, if you look at the card from the right angle, there isn't a fourth energy symbol, but it looks like there should be. And they did go and put out a corrected version of this Sylveon, but the corrected version was very limited and only printed in certain products and is significantly rarer. Once again, it is the corrected version, which ends up being a lot rarer. And we can take an example from very recently with Victini EX. We don't need to go into this in a huge amount of detail because we talked about this quite recently, but Japan recently gave away Victini EX as a promo if you did well enough over in Japan at particular tournaments. And it was supposed to be the Victini promo, which came in our V Battle Decks, which is a reprint of the good Victini from Sword and Shield, but with new artwork. Unfortunately, when Japan printed it initially, they printed a reprint of the Battle Styles one with the new artwork, but then, like with Chandelure, they came out and apologised on the website, and they actually then issued a new version, which is correct. And what is really cool, if you're somebody like the lovely Antoine Boulet, who is exceptionally good at the card game, and you went and won one of the Error Victini, you would have got a letter apologising and giving you the corrected Victini. As Antoine put it, sorry for giving you this really rare promo card. Please let us make it up to you by giving you another really rare promo card. But again, if they give out any new versions of this Victini, it's going to be the corrected Victini, which means that if new versions are given out, that is just going to make the error version rarer and rarer by comparison. Now, when we talk about this, we do need to compare with other things, and this gives me an opportunity to tell you about Cinderace again, because man, the whole Cinderace thing drives me absolutely crazy. You see, when Cinderace was printed, it was printed with the wrong retreat cost. Happens, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. When it was printed in Sword and Shield, it was printed with a single colourless energy, but it should have been printed with a retreat cost of 2, like it was over in Japan. The thing is, that was never corrected, and I've seen people, so many people, trying to sell this as an error card, trying to sell this as a card which is more valuable because it's got an error, but completely ignoring the fact that I mean, look, there's two ways to look at an error card. There's an error card which is, we have printed this wrong, and clearly Cinderace fits that bill. And then there is the error card of, this is actually a rare card because it has an error, and therefore it's worth more money. Although, like we've seen with Donphan, with Sylveon, with Victini, generally speaking, the corrections when they come tend to be quite late, and then you end up in a situation where the corrected version is rarer and more valuable than the error version in the first place, which is kind of interesting. But the point here is, even though they did put out this image of this Cinderace with a retreat cost of 2 on the website when they made the errata, etc., they never printed it. As far as I'm aware, and correct me in the comment section if I missed it, they didn't print it like that. Even the version that went up on PTCGO has a retreat cost of 1, whereas it should have a retreat cost of 2, like the gym promo in Japan. So, technically, yes, it's an error card in that it's got the wrong retreat cost, but it is no rarer or more valuable than your ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill holo, so no, ladies and gentlemen, no. There are more examples, incidentally, of error cards that were corrected. These are just a couple of my favourite examples we picked out in this particular video. My point is that this happens, and they've corrected it sneakily on the side, and it is likely, though not guaranteed, that it is the corrected version of Cinderace with the correct artwork that is going to end up being the more sought after of them. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know how much you care about this Chandelure being corrected. I want to know if you've got any other cool error cards you want to tell me about. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.